Once upon a time in a small village called Nuru, nestled among tall, green hills, there lived a brave girl named Amani. Amani was known for her bright smile and her love for adventures. She often explored the beautiful forests surrounding her village, where the trees whispered secrets and the rivers danced with joy. But one day, everything changed. One sunny morning, Amani woke up to find that her favorite tree, the big baobab tree, was sick. Its leaves were turning brown, and it looked weak. The villagers loved this tree because it was very old and gave them shade during the hot days. Amani decided she had to help. She gathered her friends, Kofi and Zuri, and they made a plan to find out what was wrong with the baobab tree. The three friends set off into the forest. As they walked deeper into the woods, they noticed that the air felt different. It was heavy and dark, like a storm was coming. Suddenly, they heard a strange sound, a low growl that sent shivers down their spines. They looked at each other with wide eyes. "What was that?" whispered Kofi. "I don't know, but we have to keep going," Amani said bravely. They followed the sound until they reached a dark cave. The entrance was covered in vines, and it looked very scary. Zuri hesitated. "What if there's a monster inside?" she asked, trembling. Amani took a deep breath. "We have to be brave. The baobab tree needs us." With that, they stepped inside the cave. It was dark and cold, and they could hear dripping water echoing around them. As they walked further in, they saw glowing eyes staring at them from the shadows. A huge creature emerged, a lion with a golden mane. But this lion looked sad instead of fierce. "Please don't be afraid," the lion said in a deep voice. "I am called Simba, and I have been cursed." "What do you mean?" Amani asked, her heart racing. "I used to protect the forest, but an evil witch put a spell on me. Now I can't leave this cave, and the forest is dying because of it," Simba explained. Amani felt a pang of sympathy for the lion. "We can help you." "How can we break the curse?" Simba sighed. "You must find the witch who cursed me and convince her to lift the spell." Determined to help their new friend, Amani, Kofi, and Zuri agreed to find the witch. But first, they had to get past the obstacles in the forest, like crossing a rickety bridge over a deep river and solving puzzles left by mischievous monkeys. As they journeyed on, they faced many challenges. The monkeys tried to trick them with riddles, but Amani used her cleverness to solve them. Kofi showed his strength by helping Zuri when she almost fell into the river. They worked together as a team, growing closer with each challenge. Finally, they reached a clearing where an old hut stood. This was where the witch lived. Amani felt nervous but also excited. They knocked on the door, and an old woman with wild hair opened it. Her eyes sparkled with mischief. "What do you want?" she asked with a sly smile. "We want to help Simba," Amani said boldly. "Please lift the curse." The witch laughed loudly. "Why would I do that? He's my greatest creation." "But he's suffering," Zuri cried. "And so is the forest." The witch's smile faded for a moment as she considered their words. "If you want me to lift the curse, you must prove your worthiness," she said finally. Amani nodded eagerly. "What do we need to do?" "You must find 3 magical items hidden in the forest," the witch instructed. "Only then will I consider lifting the curse." Without hesitation, Amani and her friends accepted the challenge. They set off into the forest once again, determined to find the magical items that would save Simba. Their first task was to find a feather from the rarest bird in the land, the golden eagle. They climbed steep hills and crossed sparkling streams, searching high and low for this precious feather. After hours of searching, they finally spotted the eagle perched atop a tall cliff. It was magnificent. But how could they get close enough to ask for a feather? Kofi had an idea. Let's work together. I can climb up while you two call to it. With Amani and Zuri shouting encouragement, Kofi climbed up the cliff like a monkey. When he reached the top, he spoke gently to the eagle. Please, mighty eagle, we need your feather to save our friend. The eagle looked down at him with wise eyes. You are brave and kind to help your friend, it said. You may take one feather. Kofi carefully plucked a single golden feather from the eagle's wing and climbed back down with joy. They had completed their first task. Next, they needed to find a flower that bloomed only under the light of the full moon, the moonlight blossom. They searched all day but found nothing as night fell over the forest. Feeling tired and discouraged, Amani sat on a rock and closed her eyes for a moment. Suddenly, she remembered stories her grandmother told her about how flowers could be guided by music. Let's sing, she exclaimed. They began to sing softly under the stars. As their voices filled the air, something magical happened. The moonlight blossom began to glow brightly in front of them. With excitement bubbling inside them, they picked the flower carefully and placed it in their bag. Now only one item remained, the scale of justice from the great crocodile who lived in the river nearby. They approached the river cautiously, knowing that crocodiles could be dangerous. As they reached the water's edge, they spotted him lounging on a rock, an enormous crocodile named Django. Who dares disturb my rest? Django growled as he opened one eye. We need your scale of justice. Amani shouted bravely. It's for a good cause. Django chuckled darkly. And why should I give it to you? Because we are trying to save our friend. Zuri pleaded. The crocodile thought for a moment before saying, I will give you my scale if you can answer my riddle. They nodded eagerly. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening? Django asked with a grin. Amani thought hard while Kofi scratched his head in confusion. Then Zuri exclaimed, it's a human. Babies crawl on 4 legs, adults walk on 2 legs, and old people use a cane. Very clever. Django said as he tossed them one of his shiny scales from his back. With all 3 magical items in hand, the golden feather, moonlight blossom, and scale of justice, they raced back to the witch's hut. We did it. Amani shouted as they reached her door. The witch looked at their treasures with surprise and curiosity. You have proven yourselves worthy, she said slowly. Will you lift Simba's curse? Kofi asked hopefully. The witch nodded slowly. Yes, but first you must promise me something. What is it? Amani asked. You must promise to protect this forest and its creatures, she replied sternly. We promise, they all said together. The witch waved her hands over the magical items as she chanted strange words. Suddenly, a bright light filled the room. When the light faded away, Simba appeared before them, free from his curse. He stretched his powerful legs and roared with joy. Thank you, he said gratefully. You have saved me. But just then, something unexpected happened. A dark shadow loomed over them as thunder rumbled in the sky. The witch's face turned serious as she pointed towards the horizon. It seems my magic has angered another force, she warned. Amani felt her heart race again as she looked up at what was coming, a swarm of dark clouds swirling together like a giant storm. We must protect our village, Amani shouted. Simba nodded fiercely. I will help you fight whatever comes. The friends quickly gathered their courage as they prepared for battle against whatever darkness threatened Nuru Village next. As the dark clouds rolled in, casting ominous shadows over the land, Amani, Kofi, Zuri, and Simba stood together, ready to face whatever challenge awaited them. The air crackled with energy as the wind howled. What do we do? Kofi asked, glancing nervously at the swirling clouds above. It feels like a storm is coming, but it's not just any storm. Amani took a deep breath, remembering her grandmother's stories about the guardian spirits of the forest. We need to stand together and call upon the spirits for help. They will protect us if we show courage and unity. Zuri nodded, her eyes shining with determination. Let's do it. We can't let fear stop us. With Simba by their side, they formed a circle and held hands. Amani closed her eyes and began to chant words of strength and bravery, calling upon the spirits of the forest to lend them their power. Kofi and Zuri joined in, their voices rising in harmony. As they chanted, the wind picked up, swirling around them like a protective barrier. The dark clouds seemed to hesitate for a moment, as if sensing the strength of their unity. But then, a booming voice echoed through the air. Foolish children. You think you can challenge me? The voice belonged to a dark figure that emerged from the clouds, a tall sorceress with flowing black robes and piercing red eyes. She looked down at them with disdain. I am Nyara, the mistress of shadows. You have dared to disrupt my plans by freeing that beast. She pointed an accusing finger at Simba. Simba is not a beast, he is a protector. Amani shouted back defiantly. You have no right to harm him or our village. Nyara laughed coldly. You are brave, child, but bravery alone cannot defeat me. I will unleash my storm upon your village unless you surrender to my will. Simba stepped forward, his golden mane glistening even in the dim light. You will not harm Nuru or its people. We will fight for what is right. The sorceress narrowed her eyes and waved her hand. Dark tendrils of shadow shot towards them like snakes, aiming to ensnare the friends. But just as they were about to be captured, Amani remembered the magical items they had collected. Use the feather, she shouted. It can help us. Kofi quickly took the golden feather from his pocket and held it high. Great Eagle Spirit, grant us your strength, he cried. The feather began to glow brightly, illuminating the area around them. The light pushed back the shadows and created a barrier that protected them from Nyara's dark magic. Impossible! Nyara screamed, her voice filled with rage. You think you can stop me with mere trinkets? Zuri then remembered the moonlight blossom. We have one more chance. The flower can bring forth the light of the moon. She held it up high, and its petals shimmered under the dim light. By the power of the moonlight, we call upon the forces of nature. Zuri shouted. The moonlight blossom radiated a brilliant light that filled the clearing, pushing back Nyara's shadows even further. The sorceress stumbled back, momentarily blinded by the brightness. Now. Together. Amani shouted as she felt a surge of courage flow through her. With Simba leading the charge, they all rushed toward Nyara as she tried to regain her composure. The scale of justice was their final weapon, the symbol of fairness and truth. Amani reached into her bag and pulled out the scale. Your darkness cannot prevail against justice, she declared, holding it aloft. As she did so, a wave of energy erupted from the scale, creating a blinding light that enveloped Nyara. The sorceress screamed in fury as she was engulfed by the light, her form beginning to disintegrate into nothingness. "No! This cannot be," she shrieked as she faded away into the wind. With a final flash of brilliance, Nyara was gone, leaving only silence in her wake. The dark clouds began to dissipate, revealing a clear sky filled with stars. Amani, Kofi, Zuri, and Simba stood together in awe of what they had accomplished. They had faced darkness and emerged victorious. "We did it!" Zuri exclaimed, jumping up and down with excitement. "We saved our village." Simba nuzzled Amani affectionately. "You showed great bravery and wisdom today. Thank you for believing in me and fighting for what is right." As they made their way back to Nuru Village, they could see lights flickering in the distance. Villagers had gathered outside their homes, looking worried but hopeful. And they could hear the distant rumble of thunder growing louder. When they arrived at the village square, everyone erupted into cheers. The villagers rushed forward to embrace Amani and her friends. "You are heroes," an elder exclaimed. "You have saved our home." Amani smiled widely as she looked at her friends and their beloved Simba. "We couldn't have done it without each other. Together we are strong." That night, as they celebrated under the stars with music and dancing, Amani felt a sense of joy and peace wash over her. She realized that true bravery comes from love and friendship, and that together they could overcome any darkness. From that day on, Amani, Kofi, Zuri, and Simba became known as the guardians of Nuru, protectors of their village and champions of nature. They continued to explore the forest together, sharing stories and adventures while ensuring that peace reigned over their beloved land. And whenever dark clouds threatened again, they knew they could face it together, united by courage and friendship. As the days turned into weeks, the village of Nuru thrived under the guardianship of Amani, Kofi, Zuri, and Simba. They became legends in their own right, known not only for their bravery in defeating Nyara but also for their commitment to protecting the land and its creatures. One sunny afternoon, while exploring a new part of the forest, Amani felt a strange pull toward a hidden glade she had never seen before. The air was thick with the scent of blooming flowers and the sound of a gentle stream flowing nearby. "Guys, come check this out," Amani called, her curiosity piqued. Kofi, Zuri, and Simba followed her as she pushed through the lush underbrush. When they stepped into the glade, they were met with a breathtaking sight. In the center stood a magnificent tree, its trunk wide and gnarled, with branches that stretched high into the sky. Its leaves shimmered in shades of gold and silver, and at its roots lay a shimmering pool of water that reflected the colors of the tree. "What is this place?" Kofi whispered in awe. Zuri approached the tree, running her fingers over its bark. "It feels magical," she said. "Like it's alive." As they admired the beauty around them, a soft voice echoed through the glade. "Welcome, brave ones." Startled, they turned to see a figure emerging from behind the tree. It was a tall woman with long, flowing hair that seemed to be woven with strands of light. Her eyes sparkled like stars, and she wore a gown made of leaves and flowers. "I am Nyara, the spirit of this ancient grove," she said with a warm smile. "I have watched over this land for centuries, and I sensed your courage in facing Nyara." Amani stepped forward, feeling a connection to Nyara. "Thank you for your kind words. We only did what we felt was right." Nyara nodded. "Indeed. And now, I have a gift for you, a blessing for your bravery and unity." She gestured toward the shimmering pool. "This water holds the essence of nature's magic. It can heal wounds and strengthen bonds between friends." "Wow!" Kofi exclaimed, his eyes wide with wonder. Can we use it to help others? Yes, Nyara replied. But remember, true strength comes not just from magic but from the love and trust you share with one another. The friends gathered around the pool, each taking turns dipping their hands into the cool, sparkling water. As they did, they felt warmth spread through them, a sense of empowerment and connection that deepened their friendship. Let's use this gift wisely, Zuri said thoughtfully. We can help those in need in our village and beyond. With Nyara's guidance, they learned how to harness the magic of the grove. They returned to Nuru with newfound purpose, using the water to heal injured animals and assist villagers who were struggling. Their actions spread hope and joy throughout the land. However, word of their deeds reached far beyond Nuru. One day, while they were gathering herbs near the edge of the forest, they encountered a group of travelers who looked weary and frightened. Please, one of them pleaded, we've come from the village of Kijani. It's been overrun by shadow creatures that emerge from Nyara's dark magic. We need help. Amani exchanged worried glances with her friends. We can't ignore their plea, she said firmly. We have to go to Kijani and see what we can do. Simba let out a low growl, his protective instincts kicking in. We'll face whatever darkness lies ahead together. With determination in their hearts, Amani, Kofi, Zuri, and Simba set out for Kijani. The journey took them through dense forests and across rocky hills, but they pressed on, fueled by their desire to help. When they finally reached Kijani, they found the village shrouded in gloom. Buildings were damaged, and villagers looked frightened as shadow creatures roamed the streets, twisted forms that flickered like smoke. We have to act quickly, Amani said as they surveyed the scene. If we can gather everyone together in one place, we can use the grove's magic to protect them. Kofi nodded. Let's lead them to safety. As they approached the villagers, Amani raised her voice. Everyone. We are here to help. Follow us to the old meeting hall, it's safe there. With Simba at the front guiding them, the villagers began to follow Amani and her friends toward the meeting hall. The shadow creatures noticed their movement and surged forward, trying to block their path. Stay close. Zuri shouted as she prepared to defend them. Let's show them what we've got. Kofi added, gripping his staff tightly. As they reached the meeting hall, Amani quickly instructed everyone inside while Kofi and Zuri stood guard at the entrance. Simba growled fiercely at the encroaching shadows. Now. We need to use the magic. Amani urged. They filled bowls with water from the grove and placed them in front of each villager. Drink this. It will give you strength. Amani encouraged. One by one, the villagers drank from the bowls, feeling energy surge through them as they united their spirits against the darkness. Just then, a massive shadow creature lunged toward them, its form shifting menacingly. But as it reached for Amani, something remarkable happened. The villagers began to glow with an inner light fueled by their collective courage. Together, Amani shouted. Let's push back against it. With newfound strength and unity, they raised their hands toward the creature. The light radiated outward like a wave, crashing against the shadow creature and forcing it back. No, it shrieked as it dissolved into wisps of darkness. The other shadow creatures hesitated as they felt their power wane in the face of such unity. One by one, they began to retreat until finally, all that remained was silence. The villagers erupted into cheers. They had faced their fears together and triumphed. You did it, one villager exclaimed as he hugged Amani tightly. You saved us. With relief flooding through her heart, Amani smiled at her friends. We couldn't have done it without all of you. As night fell over Kijani, they gathered around a fire to celebrate their victory. The villagers shared stories of bravery while Amani and her friends listened intently. Ilara's words echoed in Amani's mind, true strength comes from love and trust shared among friends and community. That night marked not just a victory over darkness but also a deeper bond forged between Nuru and Kijani, a promise that together they would protect each other against any threat that dared to rise again. And so it was that Amani, Kofi, Zuri, and Simba continued their journey as guardians, not just of Nuru but of all who sought light in times of darkness. Their adventures would carry on as long as there were stories to tell and friendships to cherish.